Today, we're going to be going through every single one of Alex Pereira's championship fights, plus Jan Blachowicz, because we got to shout out Jan Blachowicz, and we're going to be ranking them from worst to best. But when we had this video planned out, this was before Pereira had lost to Ankalaev, and we were expecting him to beat Ankalaev, so it was kind of a depressing video to plan out yesterday.
Yeah. I'm so low on energy right now. I just don't want to be here. But
we got to film a lot of videos today.
Dylan's going on holiday. He's taking a hiatus from the channel after Pereira's loss, which is totally fair.
The comments: Dylan took that loss too hard. He killed himself.
Is that what they said?
Something, or like he's dead or something. Like,
yeah, it was close. It was close. Okay, we're gonna start from our weakest fight from Pereira. Obviously the honorable mentions that we're not talking about are the Michailidis fight, the Bruno Silva fight, and the Sean Strickland fight. All great performances. Actually, two of them were KOs. Bruno Silva took him to decision. But at number 8, I think it's pretty obvious. I have Big Ank.
Okay, I have Adesanya too at number 8.
Okay, well, for me, the reasoning is he went the distance with Big Ank and lost, Lost 3 rounds in most of the judges' eyes. I don't think he lost 4 rounds. I think he lost 3, and it was close at that.
I don't think he lost 3 rounds. And I'm standing on that. I am standing on that. Ankalaev did nothing.
Yeah, it was
so many of those rounds.
It was so close, but I just think that he got shut down a little bit. He didn't know what to do. In the Izzy fight, I'll talk about the Izzy fight later, he was beating up Izzy a little bit on the feet. And then Izzy caught him,
Yeah.
Pereira got caught. Ank dominated him. Jamal Hill always wins in this situation somehow.
Jamal Hill's trying to be best buds with Pereira now. He's like, oh, what a respectable father. The way he raised those kids was...
Shut up, bro. Shut up.
But, I just kind of thought, to get knocked out in round 2, it was very much like what Alex Pereira does to other people.
Yeah.
Minus the, Adesanya kind of got dominated a little bit. In the beginning of that fight, he was losing that fight up until he got Pereira. But I think it was also a lack of focus, some carelessness on Pereira's fight, Pereira's part, which I didn't love to see.
He's overconfident.
Yeah, and then it didn't pan out too well for him. But that's why
low-key it did though, because he went up to light heavyweight and then smoked everyone.
Yeah, but imagine he never lost.
Yeah. But then maybe he'd still be at middleweight, and Drickus would beat him up 3 times in a trilogy. All right, well, that's a fair pick. Big Ank, he got it done. I think that was Pereira's weakest performance. That's, in my opinion, the fight where he just looked the worst. I'm worried for his age now, he looked old in that fight. I think that's the first time I've ever noticed that. But maybe it's just the style of Ankalaev really gave him problems. Obviously, he was thinking about the takedowns, even though Ank didn't land any takedowns.
Yeah.
So if they do have a rematch, which that's probably what it's going to be, it's probably going to be a rematch if Pereira wants it. I think he should take some inspiration from the fact that he didn't get taken down and maybe just let his hands go a little bit. I think that's pretty obvious, but
yeah.
You just need to let your hands go, bro. We were screaming at the TV the entire night. It was annoying.
Coaching that guy, man.
Yeah.
Glover, terrible corner.
Honestly. At number 7, this is where I have the Izzy fight.
This is where I have Ankalaev. So we just kind of flip-flop places there.
Yeah, like I said, Izzy caught him with 2 beautiful shots and knocked him out. So it could be considered a worse loss because he did take a knockout. But if you think about the weight cut down to 185, I don't think that's a good weight class for him. So I think there's other circumstances in that fight that helped Adesanya compared to Pereira. And then if you compare that to the Ank fight, I feel like Pereira is still technically in his MMA prime, if that makes sense, and Ankalaev was able to beat him. I feel like he was still relatively new against Izzy. So it's not quite as bad of a loss in my opinion, because he did look good in that first round and, piecing him up against the fence. But
yeah, for me watching that fight this past weekend, it just did not seem like Alex Pereira.
No.
It was so weird on you mentioned it in the video, in the review video, but 4th, 5th round, still so focused on that leg.
Yeah.
It was like,
Oh, you watched my reaction.
I did. But so focused on the leg, and it just did not make sense. On 4th and 5th round, he's still going for that leg kick TKO. Like, you established that leg damage early on. Now you go in with the hands, bro. And I think Pereira is really struggling with the fact that his high kick just does not work. It hasn't worked in the last 2 fights, and that's something that, it worked against Yuri, but I think maybe he has a tell for it, so now he needs to, switch it to the body, because he's either left low or right high, and there's nothing else there. If the left was the high kick, it's a different story, but it's left low, right high, and then I don't know if we saw any like proper left hooks thrown from Pereira.
There's like 1 or 2.
Yeah. It
didn't really land even.
It was just so weird.
Yeah.
It was he had a couple good 1-2s, but that was literally it.
Yeah.
And the way that he was on his back foot all fight.
Yeah, that was the issue.
Back foot. That's the thing, is all, like, you look at the champions right now, and all these champions are on their front foot pushing, and Pereira just wasn't pushing, and that was so weird because he's always on the front foot pushing his opponent, but Ank was in control of that fight.
Yeah. That's why he lost.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to number 6. I got the Roundtree fight.
Okay.
Because this was a lower level opponent, ranked number 8, and rankings don't mean everything, but Roundtree hasn't proven himself against anybody. His biggest win before Alex Pereira was Anthony Smith, which is not ideal. So to give him that shot at the title was kind of like a gift for Roundtree, and he did extremely well, beat Pereira for 2 rounds. Again, it was one of those fights where Pereira just looked pretty tired in there. Not tired, but like his defense was pretty bad against Roundtree, especially in those first 2 rounds, and the speed of Roundtree is crazy, but I don't know, something with Pereira's game in the last 2 fights just hasn't been quite as perfect. He obviously did get that KO win, which was impressive, and you might be wondering why the Jan fight isn't below this, but I think against not a wrestler, but Jan mixes it up well. For Pereira to go up to light heavyweight and do what Adesanya couldn't do right after he lost to Adesanya, and get right back up after and put forward pressure on Jan Blachowicz when he got taken down. Like, I think that was more impressive than beating a kickboxer, which he should beat on the feet. To beat Jan, who mixes it up and who is a really good striker himself and who's a staple of that light heavyweight division, for him to go out there and beat Jan, I think that's more impressive than him going out there and beating number 8 ranked Khalil Roundtree, who said he was going to stand up with him. Pereira doesn't have to worry about any takedowns. Like, Pereira should be winning those fights. So that's why I have it.
Number 6. You mentioned it. Oh, why don't you have Jan Blachowicz here? This is where I have Jan Blachowicz. It's kind of
casual.
It's kind of, I think, the most like obsolete Alex Pereira fight. It's the fight that spends the most time on the ground.
Yeah.
Jan Blachowicz has him down on the ground at multiple times in the fight. And it was considered to be Pereira's closest fight. Outside of, obviously, he's got 2 losses now. But like in terms of his fights, it was his closest fight. When people were like, you still had people arguing that Jan Blachowicz won that fight. So Alex Pereira barely snuck by this win here. Like, in my mind, he decisively won that fight. He had 2 rounds over Jan Blachowicz, but it just was we saw the least from Pereira at that point, you know. And obviously now he has those 2 losses. You obviously have to put the losses lowest, but in terms of his wins since that first championship fight versus Adesanya, I just think that we just saw the least Alex Pereira-ness in that fight, and he just did the least in that fight. And I think I do like what you did. Like, I respect yours with the level. Obviously I think Jan Blachowicz at that point where Pereira was, a way tougher fight than Khalil Roundtree 6 months ago.
I think even still, like, I have Blachowicz at my number 5, and I think even still Blachowicz would be a tougher fight for Alex than most of the guys at light heavyweight. Definitely harder than Carlos Olberg, definitely harder than Khalil Roundtree. So Blachowicz is a good fighter. Like, he took Ankalaev to a draw.
Yeah.
He did the same as Alex Pereira pretty much. Like, I'd say they had very similar levels of performance, just a little bit different in the way that they got it done. Like, very even fights. You can say that they matched the skill level of Ankalaev. So I think Blachowicz is a very underrated light heavyweight, and he's going to get it done against Carlos Solberg, and then he might be right back in that title picture. I don't think he'll get a rematch versus Ankalaev before his career is over. There's just too many guys like Roundtree, Yuri, and Ulberg who haven't fought for the belt, or who haven't fought Ank for the belt yet, that are kind of more exciting fighters than Blachowicz, in my opinion, and just probably have that upward trajectory right now. Jan is coming off double shoulder surgery or some shit, and then he's like 42 now, so I just don't see much of a career for Jan. But the reason why I have it at number 5 is because just that level, just a very high level fighter.
It was funny in the video the other day, the review video, someone was like, it took an Alex Pereira loss for the channel to get non-family friendly, because I think you said shit.
Oh, bro, I said a lot. I said a lot of words.
I only saw the shit and I turned off.
You couldn't handle it anymore.
It was too much for me. But number 5.
Yeah, people probably think that we don't swear in real life after watching our videos. Or just PG.
We just play it up. You never know who's watching.
It's true. That's very true. Yeah, bro. Oh my goodness, I have a story. So I was at the dinner table last night, and I was like finally expressing my emotions after the Alex Pereira loss. I was finally talking about it, and I was just telling my parents like how bad of a performance it was, and like such a boring fight. And what did I say? I was like, oh yeah, I was telling them about how you finally revealed that I had a kid, right? And I was like, yeah, Dylan had to do that so we could beat the gay allegations. And my mom was like, oh yeah, I saw those. I was like, bro, what? Get off our comments right now. Do not be reading those comments, Mom. You don't want to see that. So yeah, that's the daily story for today.
5, I have Adesanya 1.
Oh,
because this was another fight that wasn't like, I think that Alex Pereira's 2024 fights, were domination.
Goated.
Like domination.
They'll never be forgotten.
And then obviously the Roundtree fight's different. I'm gonna talk about the one a little bit later. But like the Adesanya fight, like Pereira like had to push it late in that fight and had to get that knockout, or there was a good chance he was gonna lose that fight.
Yeah. He was gonna lose that fight probably.
So hey, you never know with these judges' scorecards.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah.
They hate Pereira.
They do. Yeah.
So actually, you probably would for sure lost.
When I saw that robbery for the Brazilian guy earlier on the card, I was like, oh, we're chilling, And then Sal must have gotten confused. Sal is genuinely the worst judge. Like, I don't care if it's in my favor for who I want to win or if it's not in my favor. He genuinely has consistently the worst scorecards in the sport, and it's not close. He's awful, bro.
Yeah.
But usually it's for the people I want to win, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Today it was not.
Well, it's whoever's the Saudi money.
Yeah.
Saudi money for Sal.
Sal's getting that under the table.
But yeah, he knocked out Adesanya late in that fight, but it kind of was just like, it was like Pereira had to get it done there, and it was like, Pereira, where was that against Ankalaev, sir?
Yeah.
You had to get it done, and then you go to the calf kick more.
So
and the calf
annoying,
kicks
bro.
got worse as the fight went on.
Well, I feel like if you realize after 3 rounds that he ain't getting, he didn't feel them at all. Ank just kept walking forward. I was surprised that he didn't, it just didn't do anything.
Well, and by the end, the 4th, 5th round, they weren't proper calf kicks because of the stances, and they're just little boop.
Yeah. And it
they were working at the beginning when Pereira had some gas in the tank, but it was nothing at the end.
And the distance was so close between them at the end.
Yeah.
It was it just didn't work. Pereira's game plan did not work. So it is what it is. At number 4, I have Yuri Prohaska, the first fight, because it was a close first round. I wouldn't say that decisively for either one of them. I think I might have leaned Yuri in that first round. So Pereira wasn't dominating Yuri. It was competitive. Yuri was holding him up against the fence, threatening the takedown a little bit, beating him up on the feet, landing hard shots up against the cage. And I was getting worried for Pereira. And then that second round, same thing. He got caught up against the cage a couple times. His defense has never been great, but it's just that it's that left hook equalizer, and it put him down for a little bit, and it was an early stoppage, but those elbows to the side of the head were pretty vicious as Yuri was falling, and it did look like he was kind of out of it for a second. So don't really blame Mark Goddard for that one, but in terms of performances, it was good. but it wasn't great.
Yeah.
So that's why it's number 4.
All right, my number 4. This is where I have Khalil Roundtree. I think that, it was pretty decisively that Khalil won the first 2 rounds, landing significant shots against Pereira. We didn't have a moment like when knocked down Pereira and like stumbled him. Like Roundtree didn't really stumble Pereira, but he had very good volume against him. And then we led into the 3rd and 4th round, and that 4th round of Pereira might have been one of the best rounds I've seen him have in his career. So it was kind of he looked weird, it looked off, and then turned it around and looked the best maybe he ever had in his whole career. So I think kind of balancing those out, it goes here at 4. And the opponent of Roundtree too, not the greatest, but
yeah, it is what it is. Still a good fight.
It's a fight that could age with time.
True, very true.
Roundtree beats Jamal Hill.
Yeah, and now Jamal Hill suddenly Alex Pereira's worst win.
Yeah,
pretty much, which is crazy to say. Speaking of Hill, that's where I have it number 3, because it was only 1 round. There wasn't really any chance for Hill to get going or throw any offense. Pereira was throwing lots of leg kicks out, finding that distance, and Hill was actually dodging quite a few of them, checking and lifting his leg up. So Hill was doing not bad, but he didn't really offer any offense. And then after that kind of brush off stoppage, it was just over. So not really much to analyze in terms of a fight, which is why it was more of Hill getting caught rather than being dominated for 4 rounds. So that's why I have it at number 3.
Yeah, my number 3, this is where I have Yuri 1. I think kind of very similar to what you said. It was back and forth in round 1. And then even to start round 2, Yuri might have been in control a little bit there. But then Pereira eventually just caught him. And that's how the fight went. But I think anytime you have a 5-round championship fight that is lasting under 3 rounds, it's in the 2nd round where the guy's losing, it's like that's a pretty decisive dominant win. Catching him, and even if it was an early stoppage, Yuri would have been cooked after that point. You ain't getting back up and fighting good after those prayer elbows and the left hook.
Yeah.
But there's obviously, in my opinion, 2 fights that were more dominant than that, but
yeah. All right, now on to our top 2 spots. This is where I have the Izzy 1 fight.
Ooh.
Now, same reasons why I had Izzy 2 higher up than the Ankalaev loss is because it was a weight-drained Alex Pereira. So I think it's more impressive for Alex Pereira to go an entire 5-round fight, keeping up a very quick pace for those big guys at middleweight, and then pretty even in the stand-up. Izzy had that round where he dominated on the ground and got that ground and pound, but in terms of the stand-up, it was a very close fight. Alex Pereira was landing the bigger shots. Izzy had more volume, and then at the end, Izzy gets caught up against the fence. Alex Pereira finally makes that pressure worth it all and finds the finish. Would have loved Mark Goddard to let it go on a little bit longer and have Izzy actually get KO'd, because it's a passing of the torch, but it was a great stoppage, well deserved. But in terms of impressive performances, Izzy had been a very dominant champion. The only loss he had up until that point was to Jan Blachowicz, and that was in light heavyweight. He had never lost in middleweight, looked unbeatable in all of his other middleweight title fight performances. And I think there was a lot of pressure on both of them. This was a superstar matchup, their 3rd time fighting. So yes, there was a lot of pressure on Izzy, but also a lot of pressure on Pereira for only having 1, 2, 3 fights in the UFC before that.
And 2 other MMA fights before that, I think.
Yeah, so it was his 6th total MMA fight, which is just absolutely insane.
It's like Bo Nickel coming in and fighting Adesanya for the belt.
Yeah.
Prime Adesanya.
Yeah, but like I said, just the weight drained cut, doing that at 185, beating one of the best middleweights, and I would consider Izzy to still be in his prime at that point. He was only 33 or 32, probably 33, but that's impressive, dude.
Yeah,
that's really impressive.
All right, my number 2, this is where I have Jamal Hill at UFC 300. As much as I think that everything that comes out of his mouth is a load of crap, the point of he got caught, it's not like it was a back and forth fight. Like Pereira
Yeah.
was on the front foot. Pereira was in the driver's seat of this fight, you know, landing those leg kicks, you know. But it really just was Pereira's normal thing of just kind of stalking his prey, waiting, left hook,
Yeah.
out, you know, and then
Yeah, those hammer fists were brutal. As much as we make fun of Jamal Hill for like that stupid sentence of saying I got caught, you got dominated. Like, he's right, bro.
it is true.
The more I say it, the more I believe it.
Yeah.
Which is so funny. But yeah, good fight. There's not much to say, you know?
No.
It was literally a 2-minute fight.
Yeah. And then leading into number 1.
Yuri Prohaska too.
Yeah.
It was perfect. It was
He got
literally-
dominated.
It was literally the perfect fight. And I don't care if Yuri had, like, you know, confidence issues. It doesn't matter. That performance from Alex Pereira was perfection. Dylan's dealing with allergies.
You know, we had Alex Pereira in this fight, front foot, full pedal to the metal, you know, just kind of stalking his prey, end of the first round, knocks him down. Basically, this fight was all but over if it had an extra 10 seconds, you know, and then round 2 starts instantly, boom, knocks him out.
Yeah, dude, this is the first fight where I've seen someone get knocked out twice.
Yeah. Like, Yuri was out.
Yeah. And then he was like, he thought the round was still going because he was like, he invited him into his guard, and Mark Goddard was like, what are you doing, buddy? Or maybe it's Herb Bean. But yeah, I think the thing that I remember most from this fight, obviously that head kick, the switch kick was just, I mean, that's cinema. But whenever Yuri would duck down,
It was just,
Alex Pereira would always catch him with a jab.
Yeah.
And I think like that, I mean, I think Alex Pereira has good fight IQ after this Ank fight.
I thought he was coming into the Ank fight, I thought he was one of the smartest fighters in the whole UFC.
Yeah. So now I don't know what to feel, but it really showed his adaptation from that first fight. He clearly did his study on Yuri Prohaska, and Yuri Prohaska didn't change his style. So he just completely got outclassed, and it feels like Alex Pereira was always one step ahead. He knew what Yuri Prohaska was going to do before he did it, and Yuri Prohaska, I think he only clinched once, and Alex Pereira flipped him around right away. So, like, Yuri just had nothing going for him in that fight.
Yeah.
As sad as, like, and Yuri still looks good in the Jamal Hill fight and the Rakic fight. So it's just Pereira is his kryptonite.
Basically.
It's crazy.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for us today. Go down to the comments. What was Alex Pereira's best performance inside of the UFC? Was it Yuri Prohaska too? Let us know. While you guys are down there, make sure you guys are liking and subscribing. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
See ya.